What's up, YouTube? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. And today we have a horror list. I haven't been doing as much as I wanted to in the way of 31 days of horror like everybody else. Earlier in the month, I felt under the weather for a while. My voice was kind of weak, so I didn't really feel like putting out videos. Plus, I was swamped with work, so didn't have a lot of time to do it anyway. But I'm trying to get in under the wire from my man Tim over at Tim Talks Talkies. He put out a SOS. He wanted some help. He's trying to make a community top 25 of all time, top 25 horror movies of all time list. And he asked all of us blue tubers to put together our own list of top 25, submit it to him, and he's going to put them all together and come up with a list of what we came up with from all the movies that we submit. So the deadline is coming up pretty soon. I think it's the 26th, maybe the 27th. Check Tim Talk Talkies for his video for those details. I'll definitely put the link to that. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into my top 25. And he asked us to do it from the heart, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it from the heart. And number 25 for me, and yeah, I've got a big stack of movies here to get through. So number 25 for me is actually in this set. And I wanted to show the whole set. This is a Universal Monster set. It's a Blu-ray set, not the fancy new 4K things that they came out with. A lot of these movies I really do like. Frankenstein is an honorable mention for me. That one's not here. Dracula would probably an honorable mention for me. So would the Wolfman. But the one that I'm going to go with for my number 25 is Bride of Frankenstein. It improves on the original Frankenstein just enough to get it into my number 25. Number 24 is a movie I don't have yet, and that is The Wicker Man. And I'm not talking about that atrocious abomination starring Nicolas Cage. This is the one from the 70s, and it is a crazy movie. It's just weird in all the best ways, and the ending is fantastic. So I'm going with The Wicker Man. From I think it was 1976, maybe 1977. I'll put the year over here, but yeah, that one is my number 24. For number 23, I'm going with the movie that fits right up my alley. If you know me, I like movies that basically a lot of meta movies are right up my alley. They're self-aware, they're smart, they're spoofing something, but they are good at the thing that they're spoofing, and that gives me number 23. Cabin in the Woods. So if you've seen this movie, it basically calls back to any horror movie you could imagine and has a fantastic finale. So check out Cabin in the Woods if you haven't. It is definitely a doozy. At number 22, I have a movie that I recently spoke with KB over on KB Loves Movies. I spoke with him about this movie when I was on his channel, and that is Happy Birthday to Me. So if you want to hear my thoughts on this movie, go ahead and check out that conversation. Just a movie I grew up with. Fantastic, fantastic bad movie, but I love it. So Tim said, go from the heart. I'm going from the heart. Number 21 is a movie from one of the Stephen King movies on my list. There's at least one more. I think there's a couple, but this one is one of my favorites, obviously, of the bunch. And I've spoken to some people before. I really think it's as much satire as it is horror, but it is definitely a horror classic, and that one is the original Carrie. At number 20, another horror classic, and this one comes from the 80s, is John Carpenter, probably my favorite John Carpenter movie, and that is The Thing. I don't have one of those fancy sets that have come out recently, so I need to get one of those. Number 19 is a movie that I didn't grow up on it. I was an adult when I saw this movie. When it came out, I was already an adult, but it stuck with me ever since, and it's just one I can go back to anytime. So, and that's number 19 again. That is Candyman. Number 17 has one of the best horror performances of all time. One of the most iconic performances, Kathy Bates. And as soon as I say the name, you know what movie I'm talking about. It's another Stephen King classic, and this one is Misery. She's just amazing in this movie. At number 17 is one of the more recent movies on the list, And this one has another amazing performance. This is Toni Collette, and it is Hereditary. She is just fantastic in this movie from start to finish. Should have got an Oscar, at least been nominated. Uh, Not really much more I can say. And this is one of the most creepiest kid performances of all time. And if you haven't seen it, I'll just say her story doesn't end like you think it's going to. Number 16 is another movie that's objectively bad, but well, I can't say that. It's not objectively bad. The acting is objectively bad, but the movie is one that I'm just drawn to. I've watched it a lot. I've seen this movie probably close to a dozen times, and I didn't even see it till I was an adult. It came out when I was a kid, but I was too scared to watch it. Saw it when I was an adult, fell in love with it. So number 16, it is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. At number 15, another movie that is another recent addition. This one is directed by Jordan Peele. And this one I find to be his most underrated movie. He's done 3 movies. Nope is his most recent movie. This one came out before that, and I love it almost as much as his first movie. And we'll get to that a little bit later, but I am going with Us. Number 14 is a movie that I don't actually own. I do own the American remake, and the American remake is really good. It gets a lot of crap, but it's really good, honestly. Not quite as good as the Swedish original, so I'm going with the Swedish original for my number 14, and that movie is Let the Right One In. It's a vampire movie. A young girl, she's the vampire, and well, we think she's a young girl, and then the little boy, kind of an outcast, he befriends her. And if you haven't seen Let the Right One In, go ahead and check it out. This is the American remake. This is Let Me In. Chloe Grace Moretz is the vampire in this one, and for my money is almost as good. So I would definitely check out either version. Either version is really good. So Let the Right One In, though, is actually my choice at number 14. Number 13 is another foreign horror movie. This one comes from Japan, and it is A Tale of Two Sisters. If you haven't seen this movie, it's got some haunted house things kind of going on, but then it's got some mental health issues going on. It's got step families going on. It's just it's a good ride. It's a good thrill ride. It comes to a crazy conclusion. Definitely check out A Tale of Two Sisters. This one, I don't know if you can read A Tale of Two Sisters. Let me see if I can get the spine there. There's that. The American remake, I think it was called The Uninvited. I want to say Elizabeth Banks was in the movie as the stepmom, and it is not good at all. So skip that one. So in this case, don't bother with the American remake. Go ahead and stick with the Japanese original. Fantastic movie. Number 12 is another movie I don't have, and I really need this movie. I got to get this movie. This movie is a Spanish movie. I think it's a Mexican movie. Pedro Almodovar is the director. Antonio Banderas is the star, and the movie is called The Skin I Live In. I will definitely put a poster up right here. And if you know anything about Almodovar, he deals a lot with gender issues, gender identity, and in this movie is his most horrific of all of his movies. This is I don't even want to say anything more about it because I'll start spoiling the movie for you guys. Just go ahead. If you haven't seen it, it's great. If you have seen it, you know, and that's why it gets my number 12. So The Skin I Live In. Definitely go ahead and check that movie out, guys. At number 11 is a movie I had to have on the list. I couldn't not have it. Now, there's some controversy on it because some of you are going to tell me that this movie is not a horror movie. You're going to tell me, oh, it's a thriller, and oh, it's not really a horror movie. And let me go behind the scenes a little bit, a little inside baseball. I actually left off 2 movies because they're really horror adjacent, even though I can personally consider them kind of horror. And that's Seven and Silence of the Lambs. I didn't put them on my list, but I did put this one on the list because, guys, it scared an entire nation. It's a horror movie. That's Jaws. At number 10, we got more of a horror comedy, but it's definitely got some horror in there. It's definitely a horror movie. It's just it rides that line with comedy really, really closely. It's got a lot of both in there, and it is easily my favorite werewolf movie of all time, and that is An American Werewolf in London. At number 9 is my favorite vampire movie of all time. And I referenced or told you guys that I spoke with KB a few weeks ago over on KB Loves Movies. And this was another movie that we spoke about. So guys, definitely go ahead and check out that conversation. You want more of my thoughts on this movie. So I'll let you go there and find them. I won't say anything more, but the movie is called Thirst, Park Chan-wook, Korean director. So we got a few foreign movies on here for you guys to check out. I call them subtitleophobes, people who don't like to read the subtitles, but I give you some homework. These are good movies to watch. Number 8 is one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. It is the second movie in its series. The first movie is even higher on this list. This movie does everything that it sets out to do, and it is just one of the smartest horror movies ever made, right there behind the original. And I'm going with Scream 2, guys. For me, this movie and the first movie, they're really close. They're really close. Scream 2 is amazing movie, right from the opening all the way through to the end. So definitely got to be in my top 10. All right, so far we've seen my favorite werewolf movie. We've seen my favorite vampire movie. Now we got to get my favorite zombie movie in here of all time. That's my number 7, and that is Train to Busan. Yes, it's not Night of the Living Dead. Sorry, guys. I do love that movie, but this one is just head and shoulders above the rest for me. It's just a fantastic zombie flick. Go ahead and check it out if you haven't seen that one. If you're a horror fan, you've probably seen it. But yeah, it is definitely one for the ages as far as zombie movies is concerned, at least in my book. At number 6, we get some David Cronenberg. This is my favorite movie of his. Another one that would be an honorable mention for me is The Fly. Didn't quite make it, but this one always it edges it out for me, and that is Videodrome. And it is it's unsettling how relevant this movie still is. So go ahead and watch Videodrome if you don't know what I'm talking about. Just change out a little bit of technology, change out a VHS tape for a streaming platform or a Blu-ray even. So it's a pretty amazing film. At number 5 is probably, well, it's not the most recent addition on the list, but it's one of the more recent ones. And I talked about Jordan Peele a little bit earlier. This is his directorial debut. Number 5 for me is Get Out. All right, guys, we're coming into my top 4. For me, this is basically the holy quadrinity. I might have just made that word up right on the spot, but that's okay. So I'm going with these movies. They're pretty solid in these spots. Something is going to have to really blow me away to knock off one of these titans for me. So at number 4, I'm going with the original Friday the 13th. And yeah, I know it's flawed. I know it's got its problems, but I just keep coming back to this movie. I love this movie. So I don't know how many times I've seen it. I've seen a certain person decapitated quite a few times in my life, and I'm not even going to spoil it just because you might not have seen it. And even though it's 40 years old, but I'm definitely sticking with it. Number 4, Friday the 13th, the original. My number 3 spot, another horror icon, is the bad guy here, and this one attacks you in your sleep. So this is Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. And this is the original one, not the remake and not any of the sequels, though Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors was really close to making the list, so I would call that an honorable mention as well. But Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, gets my number 3 spot. Number 2 is the first movie to ever really scare me, and possibly the last. There's some other movies, of course, they're unsettling and they do, they scare you a bit here and there, but this one just always stuck with me, and I saw it first time way too young, and I keep coming back to it for some strange reason. But that movie is The Exorcist. All right, guys, we're at my number one spot. If you've watched any of my videos before, I did a ranking of this franchise a few months back, and I've talked about it again on with KB. I talked about it on that same interview. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. There's just it's hands down number one for me. Again, go check out the KB interview. You can hear more about it there. Check out my Scream ranking. You can hear more about it, even more about it there also. But yeah, the original Scream is my number one horror movie of all time. So there's some movies that are other honorable mentions I didn't put on here, guys. That are great movies. I just couldn't find a spot for them. The Shining is one. I mentioned The Fly. I was close to putting The Terminator on, but again, my letterbox talked me out of it. They didn't have horror among the genres up there. Alien could have made it. This There's a lots of movies. I'm not even gonna go. Blackula. I talked about Blackula with KB. That almost made it. And I'm just gonna turn my head. You know, this might be bad YouTubing. I'm gonna turn my head because my horror section is right here. And if you're looking, you see it's all sloppier than before. That's because a lot of these movies I just pulled out of there to talk about. And the original Fright Night is over there. Drag Me to Hell, another Sam Raimi movie is over there. The Evil Dead movies from Sam Raimi, all great movies. I just didn't find a place for them in my top 25. So hopefully some of you guys vote for those. Tim, thanks for the impetus to do this. I hope this helps you out with what you're trying to do. And I look forward to you putting out the list. That's all I have for you guys on this one. I will catch you on the next one. Bye.